If you think this is a niche, you would be wrong. Hey, what's going on? My name's Tim. I'm one of the co-founders here at Scary Good Marketing, and we help take the fear out of marketing and advertising your business using battle-tested strategies and creativity to bring you a better ROI. And today, I really want to talk about niche, right? Or niche, or whatever it is, because I think that there's a lot of misconceptions out there of what exactly is a niche. What is it? Why do I need it? All that kind of stuff. And I really just want to clear any misunderstandings about what it is, because realistically, I think there's a lot of people that have good intentions out there when they talk about niche or niche, but they're just not quite educated enough of really understanding what it is, because a lot of the times when people use the word niche, it actually really more refers to market. And really understanding the differences between these two is really going to help you, and maybe one of the reasons why you may feel a little bit stuck, you may feel a little apprehensive around finding a niche or a niche, and I just want to break it down for you. So we go and actually look at the actual definition of what a niche is. It is actually a distinct segment of a market. But niche can also be an ornamental recess in a wall, just like this. But we're not here talking about that kind of niche. We really want to look at it as that distinct segment of a market. So really, the way that people use the word niche is, I hear a lot of times that people may say, hey, I'm in the restaurant niche. And that's not necessarily a niche, right? I want to clear the air here and really help you hone in on exactly what that means and really understand niche, because at the end of the day, understanding niche, and if you're building your entire business off of a niche, you could have the potential of pigeonholing yourself inside that niche. Now, there's nothing wrong with building a business off of a niche, and some niches are so big that you can build a brand and products, everything off of a niche. But if you want to see scale and you want to have that, really this is how bigger companies understand this. And this is actually the way that it's taught inside business school. So at the very, very top level, we have industry. So you have industry as a whole. So keeping with the restaurant example, restaurant is an industry, right? That's why they say the restaurant industry, right? So bam, there we go. That is an industry, not necessarily a niche. Inside the restaurant industry, you have things that are markets. So for example, you may have, restaurants that actually sell, prepare, and make food, right? That is a market inside the restaurant industry. But also inside that industry of restaurants are the suppliers, right? Maybe the people that make and design all of the paperware that goes inside of a restaurant. You also have all of the commercial grade equipment, right? They're also inside the restaurant industry, but they're a completely different market. What they're selling and who their customer is very different than the restaurant. So those are two markets inside of that industry. Then what you have is you have sub-markets. Now, sub-markets, for example, let's just take restaurants. So restaurants that actually have people and they make and prepare the food and you buy it. Right? So a sub-market inside of restaurants could be things like franchises, right? Franchises could be a sub-market. Dine-in only restaurants could be a sub-market. Local mom and pop restaurants could be a sub-market. Drive-through only could be a sub-market. Those are sub-markets. Then finally you have niches or niches, right? So inside that, let's just take, we went from the restaurant industry to now we want restaurants that sell and make food. Now we're going to go and we're going to pick a sub-market. So maybe our sub-market is locally owned restaurants, right? And we can even take that and then niche that down. So we're going to take locally owned restaurants and we're going to say our niche is only locally owned restaurants that are dine-in only, that are Chinese food places. That is a niche. Right? Because if we go back to the definition, it says it's a distinct segment of a market. Now, those three things are what make up a niche, right? And really a niche is super specific. And this is where a lot of people get it wrong, is they just think like, oh, well, a niche is local mom and pop restaurants. And the reason I say that is not a niche is because it is not distinctive enough. If I tell you it's a locally owned mom and pop restaurant that's dine-in only, that's Chinese food, you can picture exactly what it is. It's super distinct. And that's the thing of something that is distinct, I can tell you and you know immediately what it is. Or if I just tell you a locally owned mom and pop restaurant, you could be thinking of a completely different restaurant than what I'm thinking of. And that is not what a niche is. It needs to be something super, super detailed and, like I said, super distinct. So hopefully that boils it down for you in understanding what niche really is. So when you use the phrase, I'm in this niche, really go back to this, think about it, and realize that maybe you're actually in a sub-market or in a market. And that's why, to me, I always ask businesses, what industry are you in? Because a lot of times if they say, I'm in the restaurant niche, you're not necessarily in a niche, you're in an industry. And the reason I want to make this very distinction is because when it comes to advertising, when it comes to your materials that you put out there, right? If I have a product that is for restaurants that just have people that come in and buy food, well, now I'm in a market. And normally at the very top level, you're going to be probably in some kind of a market. And inside that market, we have franchises, we have locally owned places, we have coffee houses, we have Chinese food places, we have all these things, right? Normally, your product or service can probably help almost any of them. Some of them may be a little bit more specific, right? You may be actually in a sub-market where like, look, our product really is only geared towards franchise owners. Great. But realistically in that, it can probably work for franchises that are ice cream places to coffee places to burger places to whatever. And like I said, maybe you have something other specific, right? Maybe you only want to go after burger places. That I would consider a sub-market. Then the reason we look at niche is because sometimes messaging, especially in marketing, the more specific it can be, the better we can actually market, advertise, and put stuff out to that person. All right, so if we take the example of mom and pop, dine-in only Chinese food place. If I go and I create an ad that says, hey, are you a locally owned Chinese food restaurant? Every single person that is a locally owned Chinese food place restaurant is going to look at that ad, is going to want to know what's going on because that is self-identifying to them. And that's why we can get super specific. And as the company starts to grow, as you start to grow, maybe you find that Chinese food places just aren't the right niche for your product. You can go to burger places, you can go to pasta houses, you can go to whatever, but at the end of the day, you can go to all those different things because one is locally owned restaurants probably all have the same common problems. And that's where you can go and you can move up your marketing message to maybe be a little bit more broad to, are you a local restaurant? But the problem is people will start with, are you a local restaurant? And they don't get that much traction, think it's the niche or the niche that's not good and completely abandon it, where really I'm like, take that same messaging, but now solidify it down to each of the individual niches inside that, because sometimes they just may not resonate with it quite enough. But if you say, hey, are you a locally owned pasta house? Are you a locally owned Chinese food place? Are you a locally owned Greek food place? And if you put those in there, there's a lot of crazy things you can do when it comes to advertising, right? We can even have the exact same landing page, but use dynamic tagging to swap out like, hey, locally owned Greek food place. We can swap that out with Italian, this, that, whatever, based on the ad that they're going from. And there's a lot of powerful things that you can do, but a lot of people just don't realize that because you're looking at niche the wrong way. So I hope that that really clears everything up when it comes to understanding niche or niche. Now, if you're still struggling to figure out what kind of niche, what kind of industry, any of that stuff you should go into, we actually put together something that we call the Black Book of Industries and Niches. Now, this is a PDF document that is over 100 pages long that has 19 different industries and well over 1,200 and something niches in it. There's a lot of niches in there that we've put together that you can scroll through. So if you're in a specific industry and you're having a hard time getting traction, you can look at what are these specific niches that you can go after, you can target, and really craft and hone in your messaging behind. Now, we put all of this together, like I said, inside a PDF download. And if that's something that you're interested in, you can go ahead and there is a link in the description below where you can pick up our Black Book of Industries and Niches for only $5. Now, that's pretty much everything that I have for you in today's video, and I would greatly appreciate it if you left us a comment below talking about how this is really going to help you now that you understand the clear distinctions between what a niche is and what it isn't. So thanks so much, and I look forward to seeing you in our next video.